Eric, what's up, dude? Thanks for doing this. We're like 15 seconds away. You can hear me?
Yep, I got you.
Great. Stand by. Here we go. Sup?
This is One Bills Live, presented by Kaleida Health.
Hour number 2 on a Buffalo Victory Monday. Chris Brown, Steve Tasker with you, and joined now in hour number 2, as we are most Mondays, by my broadcast partner on the Bills Radio Network, Eric Wood, also host of the Centered on Buffalo podcast. So, Eric, glad you made it home safe and sound. You had a long road trip last night, so good to see that. What's your biggest pull from this 24-point victory? If you had to put a headline on it, what would your headline be for the Bills' wild card win?
Oh, I don't know. You should have given me some prep work on that. I might have come up with something good here. But, leading into it, I think it was a battle of titans where you talk about this Broncos defense, who many thought was the number one defense in all of the NFL, most sacks in the league, just wreaking havoc on teams throughout this season at times, going up against this Bills offense that was second in the league in scoring. They're a balanced attack, and, one was going to prevail in this matchup, and it was the Bills offense. They put up over 30 points again. They distributed the ball around the field. Curtis Samuel is the Bills' leading receiver in this one, just further proving the everybody eats mentality that they're not going to have to force it to anybody each and every week. And then they run the ball for over 200 yards. I mean, that's tough to do in this league. It's really tough to do in the playoffs. Defenses are playing at a different speed in the playoffs. I know I only got to play in one game. I noticed it when I was playing in my one single playoff game, but I've also been a fan and watched the NFL very closely. I mean, that's part of the reason rookie quarterbacks struggle so much in the playoffs is that the speed of the game goes up. It goes up from preseason to regular season, and then regular season to the playoffs. And then, Steve, you would know this. I don't know. It may go up even further in the Super Bowl. I'm not sure. But the fact that the Bills have this much experience that, yes, they gave up the big play early in the game, and that was a design shot. Bo Nix let that ball go before he was even past Taylor Rapp. They took a shot that, they took a chance that they were going to be able to take the top off the defense on that play, and it worked, but they didn't get a single point the rest of the way. So, but the story of this game, to me, just based upon the strength of the Broncos, is the way the Bills offense dominated them.
Yeah, I think that's the thing I took away from this game. The Bills dominated really on both sides of the ball. The Broncos really had a chance at 10 points in this game. They doinked the field goal right before halftime. They never got a sniff after that. And I think that second half shutout by the Bills is really the story defensively and offensively. The Bills took their foot off the gas at the end. They could have been pushing to score more points at the end with a 3-touchdown lead or 24-point lead. I was surprised by that because Denver is a good football team. And you said it. Their defense is no joke. But the ability and the desire and the commitment to run right at that defense and really put them on their heels really took the fun out of it for the Denver front, right? I mean, they didn't get to rush the passer. And when they did, they did get 2 sacks, but they didn't get any pressure, sometimes it works better, and I said this on the live post game, sometimes it works better when you get a lot of pressures and don't get any sacks rather than get 2 sacks and no other pressures the rest of the game. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the way it was for the Denver, and I think the Bills just sucked the fun out of it for them.
They did. And, DJ Jones, their nose guard's excellent. They were able to control him throughout this game. He's part of the reason that they've been they were a top 3 rushing defense in the league. A big reason for that is DJ Jones in the middle. And so they were able to neutralize him. So give the offensive line and the interior offensive line credit there. Zach Allen is also great against the run as well. Those edge rushers, they're active. And then, when you're number 3 against the run on the season, then, everybody's contributing in some way, shape, or form. So give credit across the board. to this Bills offense. And the one sack Zach Allen got on David Edwards, he beat him. I mean, that happens in this league. Josh Allen, he beat him so quick into Josh's backside, he didn't have a chance to make a move. The other one was a coverage sack. Josh sat in the pocket forever. I thought he was going to scramble out of there, and he just kept sitting in there, and eventually the pass rush got to him. But all that being said, I thought it was an awesome job by the offensive line. I mean, I thought that they dominated from the start of this game with chunk runs and giving Josh pass protection and giving him plenty of time. And also, this is number 2 blitz defense in the league. And so based upon frequency. And so not only is it a tough physical matchup for the group up front, it's also a tough mental matchup, not knowing exactly where those guys are going to be on each and every play. So it's an awesome job all around.
And then, you look at Josh in the passing game. He only has 6 incompletions the entire game. He goes 20 of 26. I mean, I'm watching the ball, Eric, so you tell me. We knew coming into the game that, the Broncos play a lot of man coverage. We thought that could be a recipe for disaster if they decided to stick to that. And I don't recall me ever even asking you the question during the course of the game, but to what degree did you see Vance Joseph change things and maybe go with some more zone coverage?
They used some more zone, but there were certainly times when they ran man. When you think about the big pass play down the field to Kincaid, the big one down the field to Ty Johnson, the long one to Curtis Samuel, those are all man-to-man defense. The one to Kincaid was a cover 0 blitz where you can hear Josh right before the snap on the broadcast say, hurry, 0-0, set hut. And I saw Chase Daniel point that out last night on X. And then going back and watching that, how good is, I mean, that's such good play. And that's the value of being the 2 seed and being at home, because if you're on the road, you can't alert your guys of those things. And so, just on a side note there, but Kincaid, that was a cover 0 blitz, and Josh threw it up and let him make a play on it. It's one-on-one, trusting Kincaid. The one to Curtis Samuel was an awesome play design. They had 4 to one side. Curtis Samuel releases. They have a bit of hesitation on who has who, and Surtain can't keep up with them coming across the field. And Surtain, I don't know if, like, people are saying this is bad effort by Surtain. I think Curtis Samuel's, he knows where he's going and he hits the brakes, and Surtain can't slow down in time to readjust and get going the other way. If it is poor effort, you don't generally see poor effort from Patrick Surtain. If it is poor effort, that this is now the first play of the 4th quarter, and Josh only went at him, I think, twice the entire game. So it might have been a little bit of boredom on his, and just, from them going away from him over and over. But that's what you can do when you got a bunch of different guys who can make plays for you, and not just one number 1 receiver that you got to force the ball to.
Yeah, and I'll say this on Pat Surtain's part, he gets over there and he's way out in front of Sanders and gives him room. And I think Surtain probably thought that the pursuit would not allow him to cut back. Both he and the safety are way out in front. They just thought, I think they took for granted that Sanders was going to run out of bounds. Sanders wasn't having it. Too much space. He cuts it back, and both those guys get caught anticipating what the receiver was going to do and anticipating wrong. I don't think it was a lack of effort. I think it was just a bad read by both those defenders. They thought Sanders was going to soft toe it out of bounds, and he wasn't having. Not Sanders.
Samuel. You got Emmanuel.
They thought
Samuel.
They wore the same number for the Bills. So
they thought he was going to just soft it out of bounds, and not get hit and all that, and he wasn't having it. So that's, I think that's on the defenders just misreading what a receiver was going to do, not really a lack of effort. And also, I got to ask you about this. We had a special teams day yesterday on both sides of the ball. Obviously, the Broncos do a really nice job on a fake punt. They get the look they're looking for, and I always get asked what was going on with the on that. What happens is you can do it 2 ways. One, particularly if you're singling a guy, you can try and get him at the line of scrimmage and jam him up. But here's the thing. Within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage, he's going to be out and running at full speed, and that's it. Unless you have twice the speed that guy does, which you're not, you're going to block him at the front of the punt, and then he's going to be free running at the returner at the end of the punt. Or, like the Bills did on that call, they're going to drop back as a single cover and block him at the other end of the punt so they could give Shakir some space and some room to get a return in. So the Broncos saw single coverage, made the call, and just had the guy break it off and throw it when they were going to block the gunner at the far end of the kick. Then they get a down, nice job. They down a punt inside the 2-yard line against the Bills. And then on the other side of it, Mac Hollins.
Steve, let me ask you a question real quick.
Yeah.
On that punt, on the fake punt, since that was fairly close to midfield, is that a situation where maybe you have that guy up on the line of scrimmage because you're thinking Shakir's not going to have that much room for a return anyways, or am I wrong in thinking that?
Well, there's two ways. Yeah, there's always the two sides of the coin. Yeah, that makes sense now that you had that play happen to you for sure. But also, you don't want to have anything, but you want to have him as much space as you can at the other end. So the one thing you don't want is a mishandled punt. So you want guys protecting him down there. Plus, if they go down there, you have 2 extra guys or whatever extra guys if the ball is muffed to get on it. So there's 2 ways to look at it. And then for the Bills, you got Mac Hollins beating a double team and absolutely crushing Mims on that punt return. And then Shakir having a nice 24, 23-yard punt return of the Bills on their own. So it was a really roller coaster day for both special teams groups. Good plays, bad plays on both sides. And I don't know, maybe it turned out to be, I guess, a push because even after the fake punt, the Broncos ended up punting.
You know, I'd honestly give the edge to the Bills, and you know more about special teams than you've forgotten more than I'll ever know in my lifetime. Just the amount of meetings that you sat in and just the knowledge. I enjoyed listening to your punt return analysis right there. Just I'm not in punt meetings. I'm never going to be on the punt team or the punt return team based upon my body type and skill set. So I enjoyed listening to that analysis myself. And that was an honest question. That wasn't me playing devil's advocate saying, should Matt Smiley have done that? I'm just asking, is that something you generally do? And, you know, generally you put one guy singled on one side, maybe double it on the other at the line of scrimmage on the other. So now you're only worried about maybe a fake to one side and maybe you can key in on it a little bit better. But you know, Ty Johnson had 2 returns out past the 30 in this game. One, I believe, was to the 36-yard line. And then Tyler Bass had a kick that bounced inside the 20s, that bounced in the end zone. They get the ball to 20 there. I mean, the Bills, I just felt like stole more yardage in this game than Denver did. Now, when they were able to get the fake punt and then back them up on the 1, that kept it close. If they don't get that fake punt there, you know, this game gets broken open in the first half. And it was inevitable just the way the game was shaken out. And I said on the broadcast, it was like body blows with the Bills in the run game, the way they were efficient. Yeah, they had to settle for 3 on their first possession, but they only got 3 possessions in the first half. One started on their own 1-yard line. They get it out to the 39 before they have to punt. The other, they drive right down the field, and they end up settling for 3. And the other one, they score a touchdown. It was inevitable that once the possession started stacking, the Bills were going to outpace this Broncos defense.
Yeah, and we didn't even mention the 23-yard return by Khalil Shakir when he faked about 6 guys out of their shoes. So, yeah, there was a lot of hidden yardage that fell in favor of the Bills, even when they did get backed up on their 1-yard line on that one punt. Eric, I'm curious what your take is on the fact that the Bills put up 31 points, yet went 1 for 5 in the red zone. Is that a scary proposition for future opponents, knowing it's unlikely the Bills are going 1 for 5 in the red zone again? I know they're playing a more formidable opponent this week, but they did play the number 3 red zone defense in football, which I guess to some degree helps explain their red zone performance yesterday. What was your take on their red zone performance and execution?
Yeah, I mean, that's not a concern of mine with this Bills team. With Josh Allen at quarterback, the red zone performance is never going to be a concern of mine. Yes, it was not up to standard yesterday, whether that's maybe not, you know, utilizing some Josh Allen runs down there. I don't know exactly. Maybe not. Maybe you're not showing your good stuff when you're, you know, later in the game, whatever it may be. You know, you can't do that the rest of the postseason or else you'll lose a game. If you look at the box score in the postseason when everybody's good, show me the turnover differential and the red zone touchdown percentage. So not number of trips. Give me their percentage and the turnovers, and I'll show you about 95% of the time who wins the game. And so, you know, the Bills are going to have to be better than that moving forward. When you look at the Bills are playing Baltimore this week, likely Kansas City the following week, and then whoever in the Super Bowl, if they can make a run that long, you can't go 1 for 5 in the red zone. But as successful as this team's been throughout the season, top 5, I believe, in red zone touchdown percentage throughout Josh's career, I mean, Rex Ryan talks about it all the time on ESPN, and he gave some bulletin board material to the Texans last weekend. But that being said, he generally has some fairly good takes, and you assume that he wouldn't talk so well about the Bills after he was fired here in Buffalo. But he calls Josh Allen the best red zone quarterback of all time, and that's a former defensive coordinator, former defensive head coach saying that. It's not just anybody making a hot take.
Yeah, so you said as they move forward, well, they are moving forward. So they got the Baltimore Ravens rolling into Buffalo this weekend. Certainly, both these teams have changed dramatically. Certainly, the Ravens are still the engine is still Lamar and Derrick Henry, but their defense is playing light years ahead of where it was in Week 4 when they demolished the Bills. The Bills have their guys back on the field and healthy defensively, so you would think they would put together a better performance. And the Bills' offense is really humming now as well. Two big-time offenses. They are a half a yard apart or less than a yard apart in how many points they've scored over the course of the season. I mean, you could see this train coming down the track, Eric, for a month and a half, and here we are finally. What are your first thoughts?
Yeah, honestly, if Kansas City wouldn't have got the 1 seed, I would assume that this would have been to go to the Super Bowl, honestly. I mean, to me, throughout the season, these are the two most dominant teams. I'm sure the point differential would tell you the same when you look at the AFC. And so, it's a big-time matchup. And, it's a pick 'em or Bills maybe favored by 1, and it's going to be fun. But there's just, this is a team that got beat by the Ravens by 25 points earlier in the season. I don't think they're going in here to this game thinking we can't beat these guys. They've had success against Lamar Jackson in the past. You had Derrick Henry. Yes, that's a different factor. The Bills have added talent over the years, and there's just so much different about this game. This time it's in our stadium. When we played them early in the season, maybe they underestimated this Ravens team that lost to the Raiders early in the season and squeaked another one out. Well, this was the first tough atmosphere that the Bills played in all season. Yes, they played at Miami on a Thursday night. The Bills fans fill half that stadium when we go down to Miami. This is their first true road test of the season. Now it's at Highmark. You've got a defense that is so much different than it was earlier in the season. Guys that are settling into their roles, and Hamlin and Rapp that were new starters, fairly new at that time. You got the whole second level of the defense was out versus the Ravens. And we were so thin at linebacker that even if they wanted to run base defense, they really couldn't because of their personnel. Now you got Milano back, you got Bernard back, you got Taron Johnson back. Von Miller's playing much differently than he was at the beginning of the season. And correct me if I'm wrong, that might have been his first game of suspension. That or he just didn't play that often based upon the game script and the personnel usage by the Ravens. So there's so many different and offensively for the Bills, Coleman's developed since then. Shakir got hurt in the game. Samuel was still dinged up at that time. You just have so many different pieces. This offensive line, some newer pieces, a tough test on the road. Mentioned the road atmosphere. Communication was abysmal on the offense event for the Bills that game. They had free rushers coming all over the place on Josh Allen, unable to separate from man coverage. Now, we're back to torching man coverage like we were before. So I say all that. This is a Ravens team that has gotten better and better as the season went on as well. Their offense, you're going to have to score points against their offense. You just truly, against this Ravens team, you're going to have to score points because they're going to score points. Between the weapons they have on the outside and their scheme with Todd Monken, this is also the first time this defense played against a Todd Monken offense with Lamar. Now, this is the second time that they've gotten to see that. It's different from when Greg Roman was running the show and, they were facing Lamar in that instance. But, and then this defense for Baltimore, through 10 weeks, they were towards the bottom of the league. And then after that, I believe they've been the number 1 defense in the NFL for the remainder of the season. So they're doing it on both sides of the ball. That's why you see these blowouts week after week from them.
All right, so last one here. Steve and I have had this conversation in the wake of the loss back in Week 4 a few months ago, and we kind of, hypothesized, do the Bills, because of the player absences, just go back knowing they have Milano, Bernard, and Johnson in the lineup this week? Do they just go back to being the defense they've always been and not changing their spots? Or does Derrick Henry mandate that you have to at least have a package that is unconventional from what you typically do defensively to try to neutralize him and get the win.
I think you'd be ignorant to not put bigger personnel at least some of the time on the field. Look, Taron Johnson, this is documented. He's one of my favorite players to watch in all of football. But there's times where you need to put Dorian Williams in for Taron Johnson, and it's as simple as that. If you feel that Cole Bishop is a better run defender for as much as he played around the box in college, if you think he's a better run defender, maybe that base package includes having Cole Bishop in there instead of DeMar Hamlin, and you get a better run defender there. Maybe it's getting bigger defensive linemen on the field, a Dwan Smoot in there, instead of an Epinesa at times. You tell me, and I'm excited to see how it shakes out on Sunday. But teams are built differently. I mean, there's a reason that the Bills run dime defense to get different personnel out there. I don't see why you don't run base defense. And it's all gap integrity, at the end of the day. So I know it's not as simple as I probably think it is to switch from nickel to base. But when you're a gap-based defense like the Bills are, I would hope that they'd be able to plug and play. And it hasn't happened a ton this year, but they have run 3 linebackers on the field before, so it's not the first time they've done it all season. I believe it was against New England the first time around, maybe a touch against the Jets. Oh, and I believe maybe a hair against the Lions.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, Eric.
And
Thanks as always.
man, just real quick before I go. Remember we were talking about Chris yesterday in the booth and saying Pittsburgh's effort didn't look great on Sunday night. Like, give Baltimore their flowers, but Pittsburgh's effort didn't look great.
Yeah.
Have you seen some of the clips of Patrick Queen and some of those dudes out there?
Yeah,
It
they're
is
pretty damning.
bad.
Yeah, they're pretty damning. It's
Yeah.
not good. As
you
you
heard some
players have
post-
said for years, the
Yeah.
film doesn't lie.
Yeah, and there's some stuff coming out of the players just felt like they were gassed at the end of that season. The last 4 or 5 weeks, the Steelers just didn't have any more to give, and they just ran out of gas after playing so hard for so long. They just couldn't keep it going to the end of the season, and I think, it's in some ways it had to show up.
Right. Yeah. I just want to throw that in there because we were speculating about that yesterday, and the tape didn't lie today with some of the clips that are out there.
Pretty wild. All right, Eric, thanks very much. We'll see you up here this weekend.
For sure. Have a great week. Enjoy this week, and then as much fun as you're going to have this week, just remember this in June when you're doing a show and thinking,
Oh, you don't have to tell us.
That is
I
right.
should
We're
have
in the
appreciated maybe the game of the year a little bit more.
Yeah, these are
exactly.
these are the gravy days right
Yeah.
here, man.
All right, thanks, Eric. Appreciate it.
Yep.
That's
See you
Eric
guys.
Wood, Bills Radio Network color analyst, joining us as he does every Monday after Bills games, and hopefully we'll be